Greetings, guardsmen and yeomen. Today we're going to be looking into the most important organization within the Forces of the Faithful, the Mendelist Order. They are responsible for the genetic manipulation, isolation of genomes, and the formation of the most powerful units in the Church's arsenal. This includes the famous Paladins, and of course their most famous creation, the metac themselves. This is the organization responsible for the creation and maintenance of all of the genetic monstrosities we see among the Church forces. So let's try to get into their real-world inspirations, their connections, and a little bit of speculation of what exactly the Mendelist Order is. Mendelism is actually a real form of science. In fact, it's the study of genetics itself, and it starts with an Austrian monk by the name of Gregor Mendel. Born in Austria in 1822, he is considered the father of modern-day genetic study. He studied the pea plants growing in his monastery's garden to form the first three laws of genetics while watching the changes between each generation. These are the laws of segregation, where only one trait would be passed upon each DNA allele, the law of independent assortment, where each trait independently segregates themselves during the separation, and the law of dominance. This is your dominant and recessive genes, think your eye color, hair color, height, those types of things. The work of Mendel mapped out a lot of what we know in modern genetics, the isolation of specific genes and genomes within DNA, the first maps of DNA through generations, and the identification and isolation of genetic disorders. Think full-on genetic manipulation. How your fruits have changed, how dogs have changed throughout their generations, depending on what traits we want them bred for. When it comes to Trench Crusade, the Order is in charge of that genetic engineering, and it forms a very key role in the fight against Hell. The Order is tasked with the creation of chemical tinctures and salves, for the creations of things like the mechanized infantry, specialized ammunition, martyrdom pills, and many others. They're also in charge of the isolation of traits, such as the Berserker trait within the Airy Rangers of New Antioch, and most importantly, the creation of Communicants through the process of the Holy Chemical Communion. It is actually really unknown how Gregor fits into the timeline, as Gregor was born in 1822, though it's shown through the creation of the Paladin program that the Order is very old, maybe even stretching back to 1099 itself, meaning that Mendel's life has changed drastically, and that of Mendelism itself, as it's much more far along than what we have in our world. Now, before we can really get into the creations of the Order, we have to get into the greatest achievement, the Metacrists. The Metacrists are confirmed to be clones of Jesus, made from the scattered DNA found upon holy relics discovered by the Church forces and melded together. These could be collected from items such as the Spear of Longinus, shards of the True Cross, among many other holy relics. The Spear of Longinus actually has connection to the First Crusade. A priest attached to the Crusades located the spear within a set of castle ruins upon the march to Jerusalem, and it was used by one of the Crusade leaders as mainly a propaganda tool to prove his right to command, though most did not really believe this was the true spear. This distrust would lead to another priest challenging the spear's founder to a trial by fire. Essentially, if the head of the spear will protect you from all harm, then it is the true spear. So the founder went into an oven and prayed that the spear would protect them from harm. It went about as well as you expect a spearhead to protect you from flames, so it was later abandoned by the Crusaders. As for the shards of the True Cross, many nations and churches have claimed to have a piece of this cross, this being the cross that Jesus was crucified on, though none can be fully proven scientifically. Even the Russians have claimed that they had a piece of the cross aboard the Moskva. Yes, that Moskva. So, that one is gone. We are aware of at least 10 created Metacrists. 2 that are fully confirmed are that of the third, known to be the one whose wounds are venerated by the stigmatic nuns and grants them their abilities, and the seventh, which is responsible for the creation of martyrdom penitents among trench pilgrims. Meaning that the metacrists are responsible for multiple miracles seen within the church forces, though it is unknown what their abilities fully are. The doctrine of the metachrist is widely shared and venerated by the faithful, and even cults to each one of the 10 have sprouted up across the nations. This is unless you're a member of the Cavalcade of the 10th Plague, which believe that the metas are an affront to God and will lead to the demise of humanity. This doesn't stop them from using the creations of the metachrist by doing things like stealing communicants, because when an effective means of war is found, you're going to use it even if it's hypocritical to their doctrine. Now, if you expect the metacrists to look along the lines of the stylized images of Jesus, you'd be quite wrong. In fact, the fate of the last human in I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, or a late-stage guild navigator from Dune, are far more apt comparisons than you would think. The metas could be best described as nothing more than giant, supposedly, semi-sentient flesh mounds, covered in various limbs, eyes, and a ruined mouth that can barely articulate words properly, only capable of giving out guttural moans and cries that require translation by a Mendelist order monk. Seems that merely melding together random bits of DNA does not make a one-to-one comparison. The meta seems to only want to give the communion to individuals, otherwise they merely just scream for a death that will never come, as there is no way the monks are going to let one of these creations pass on. Their blood and flesh are too useful to the faithful. It is unknown if the monks know of the miracles they are creating, though I highly doubt they even really care, as it provides just yet another service to the forces of the faithful. I've been talking about the Holy Chemical Communion. What exactly is it? It is a ritual needed to form the unit of the Communicants, and is a closely guarded secret of the Order, though we have gotten insight on how the ritual is conducted through a bit of lore. The Metachrist did cut its flesh, and grant it to its disciples. Its ruined mouth could not form the words, but it grunted noises that a Mendelist monk translated as, "Take, eat, this is my body." And the Metachrist did leak blood from its eyes and mouth, which the Mendelist monk caught into a chalice, once again translating the Metachrist's painful noises as, "Drink ye, all of it." And this would be the start of the creation process, and is quite the ritual. From what we can see, the metas seem to be willingly cutting themselves as part of the process, though it is unknown if they want to cry the blood. This is the start to form a communicant. As we get into the so-called products of the Mendelist order, we should start with probably the most important communicants and the most pure communicants ever made by the order, the Paladins. The Paladin program was an answer to a massive problem the church forces had when fighting the Crusade. While the forces of hell can send their agents nearly everywhere within faithful territory, even killing the Pontiff, the Holy Roman Emperor, and about half the cardinals, with death commandos, within the very Vatican and the Imperial Palace themselves, during the year of the Broken Trinity, the forces of God can't really do the same. At least, not as easily or effectively. The main reason is that most of these command and control places, the logistics hubs and factories, are located within hell itself, and the average member of the faithful can't get anywhere near that. Mainly because to even look upon the gate, with even a bit of morality within your soul, causes you to burn to ash near instantly. It is stated within the heretic legions that there are mounds of corpses lining the roads to Jerusalem, even miles outside of the city, of those who had even the shard of morality or compassion. The church has been able to send spies into heretic territory, though many do not return, and none have even gotten close to the city. This is a big issue, as the forces of hell can interrupt any supply line, destroy any factory, and kill any leader, but the faithful can't reach the majority of hells within the third or fourth circle, which is not ideal for an 800-year-long attrition war where logistics is king. A demon of Mammon can convince a tired factory worker to blow up a production line with the promise of a diamond pony or something. But there is no way to really convince a demon with an offer of salvation to do the same. Thankfully, the Mendelist order had an idea to breach this divide. The order was able to produce communicants at this point, And in complete secrecy, they created the Paladins, 12 of the most pure creations of combining the blood of the Metacrists to a mortal form, gaining nearly every advantage of the communication process, with near none of the drawbacks seen by the more standard Communicants. They are hulking warriors of faith, standing at near the height of a 2-story building. For example, Gurren, the Paladin of the Third Circle, stands at 17 feet tall when fully armored, and more importantly, they're able to pass through the gates of hell and the Vale of Tears to conduct missions within the circles themselves. When not on mission, the Paladins reside in secluded cells within a secret wing underneath the Castle St. Angelo. The Castle St. Angelo is the main fortification of Vatican City. Upon direct command of the Council of Saints, they are summoned and placed in their armor by blinded and gilded serfs, as no unholy eyes may gaze upon the form of the Paladins. And there they are briefed by a Cardinal General of their mission and given the last rites and testament, as there are no reinforcements coming to aid them. They are on their own. They either complete their mission or they die trying. There is no other option. The missions of the Paladins are held to the utmost secrecy, and only those that are deemed of the highest priority to the causes of the Church by both the Councils of Saints, Princes, and the Synod of Strategic Prophecies, as a Paladin must be used sparingly. Some of their missions include the destruction of infernal factories, killing of top commanders, and interrogations of demons, and the destruction of new strains of the Black Grail, for example. To send a Paladin, it is the utmost gamble. Since the creation of the 12th Paladin, they have been unable to produce any more within hundreds of years since. Not to mention that their armor, designed to face the challenges of Gehenna, to brave everything from triple-digit heat to bone-numbing cold, and even deluges of acid rain, while the most advanced and well-produced suits of armor, made of titanium, olorocrum, and many other metals, but can't last forever, and they have not been able to repair these suits for some time, as they require the use of Golgothic telekids in their construction. Golgothic telekids is a special material that the only place that they are located is Jerusalem itself, location that is now a hell portal and no mortal man can go anywhere near, thus needing a Paladin to go try to collect even a shard of Golgothic telekid. Thus their armor is heavily dented, scarred, burned, and has holes, leaving the Paladins to bear the worst the hell can throw at it with their faith alone, as their skin melts or freezes within the chinks of their armor. These issues have made the Council use the Paladins extremely sparingly. Of the 12 produced, 2 have died within their missions, and 1 has supposedly turned traitor, though the Church vehemently denies this, and any mention of such talk is a cause for immediate execution. The Paladins are the ultimate warriors of the Church, armed in the best armor and weapons, to go through the most intense pain and challenges to safeguard humanity. And as you've noticed, they're very much related to the 12 disciples, even having their own Judas. Now, to talk about the average taker of the communion, the Communicants. The Communicants are mortal men and women taking upon the flesh and blood of the Metacrists. Their bodies and minds have been permanently altered, as the genome of the divine is melded with their DNA. The taker becomes a near demigod with increased strength, agility, and even the ability to heal wounds in the middle of combat as they occur. Their eyes have been replaced by the eyes of the Son of God himself, and tap into the Holy Choir, gaining advanced sight and reflexes. This comes at a serious cost, though. It is stated that only 1 out of every 3 communicants comes out of the process combat capable. Many are unable to cope with the changes in their forms and the constant singing of the choir, and of course the realization of what exactly they have become, that they can just break, some becoming catatonic, unable to be awakened. Others go crazy with the constant voices of the choir in their heads. Many lose the ability to speak, or lose their higher brain functions. Others do nothing but weep and sob about their situations, and even others become filled with an overcoming blind rage, attacking friend and foe alike. This has led to the Order locking many away in secure holding cells underneath the main monastic laboratories, as no one must know of the mistakes in the Order's most holy of processes. These maladies and abilities can vary depending on the backgrounds of the candidates, their pasts, traumas, and mental and religious fortitudes can affect the outcome of the ritual. For this reason, only the most pious and mentally stable should be picked for this ritual. This reliance on the pasts and of the volunteer has caused variation among the type and fighting style of many of the communicants. The most prolific form of communicant seen on the battlefield is that of the trench pilgrim communicant. They are hulking beasts, used as line breakers, bodyguards to prophets, and frighteningly enough, castigators, maintaining the morale of the unit of pilgrims. They prefer melee combat, attacking from the front lines with enormous maces that no normal man can lift, covered in bones, bells, and other religious relics. They can see better blind due to having the eyes of the Son of God, so nail crosses to their faces to provide extra cover and even a form of a gas mask. It can be said that these are some of the most pious of individuals, willing volunteers from the trench pilgrim processions, eagerly wanting to be closer to God and to be elevated in the eyes of the Metacrists, though they lack the intelligence and training of the more preferred volunteers of the Order, being more picked from the masses of trench pilgrims that mob the members of the Order in their laboratories. The more preferred form of the communicant in the eyes of the Order is that of the anti-tank communicant, picked from trained personnel of the Church and given handlers in a form of a Mendelist monk to act as a guide and to give exact commands to break through the drowning noises of the choir. Tank hunters are a more stable version of the communicant and can follow commands to the letter. They wield the formidable anti-tank rifle. A creation of the Prussian Institutes of Metallurgy and the Institute of War in Königsberg that fire ammunition made from the nails of crucified martyrs and enhanced with the blood of the Metacrists. They are essentially firing literal nails covered in blood that can pierce the hide of any demon, the walls of any bunker, and of course pierce the hulls of armored vehicles with a single shot. With the enhancements provided by the communication ritual, the tank hunter can wield the massive weapon and aim it as though it was a simple rifle wielded by a normal man. The Church requires funds to conduct their war effort, so the tank hunters and their ammo monk guides are allocated to the highest bidding warbands and those of most required missions. With the masses of heretical armor, the trenches covered in strong hardpoints, this has meant that there is no shortage of the need of the services of the anti-tank communicant. The process has also created some rather interesting variations of communicants. One that we don't have a lot of lore on is that of the winged communicants. From what we know, they guard the most important relics of the Church within Rome, particularly the Council of Saints, and can be seen as probably the closest the Order has ever come to recreating the Paladins, mirroring the look of angels and being some of the most stable communicants of the process. Finally, we come to the Crimson Communicant. These individuals suffered a horrible loss, death of family or friends, destruction of their homes and lives before taking upon the ritual. This has left them near husks of despair, barely communicating with anybody, becoming near childlike, and mostly considered a failure. Though, for one thing, they find solace in forming connection with another Grim unit, the forces of the Red Brigade. They actively look to seek them out, to become a blood pledge. When this is found out by the Order, word is passed on from the head of the laboratory, the Bishop, to the commanders of the Red Brigade that a Crimson Communicant is ready for them, and they are slowly delivered to them. As they leave the laboratory, they're gifted with an atonement bell, to ring for forgiveness of their pasts, and to be used as quite the melee weapon. The bell itself can channel the sorrow of the second Metachrist through its tolling, causing all who hear it to flee in despair. They actively seek out grievous wounds to forget the mental anguish they suffer, as even as some of the slightest pleasures have gone numb to their minds. This has also led to a very interesting coping mechanism. Crimson Communicants have been seen to collect the bodies of dead heretics that they've killed on the battlefield, place burlap sacks over their heads, draw a face, and start to have counsel with them, believing that they're talking back to them, and calling them the names of their dead loved ones, as a way of continuing the life of their fallen loved one. The Crimson Communicant seeks the same retribution through sacrifice as the other members of the Red Brigade, and they will vehemently defend their fellow blood pledges to the death, hoping for that honorable sacrifice to be reunited with the ones they love. Communicants aren't the only thing produced by the Order. There are many other sects within the organization. Of these, we have the Brotherhood of Blessed Munitions, responsible for the creation and the use of specialized ammunition used by the entirety of the faithful forces, chemically altered with the blood of the Metacrists, and while highly unstable and difficult to handle, they are some of the most effective forms of ammunition known to mortal men, and are a closely guarded secret of the Order. Known ammunition sacraments that they provide include the bullet of the guided path, basically a tracing round, able to find their target across no man's land, guided by the hand of the Almighty themselves, the cartridge of His Wrath, essentially making the round into an explosive bullet, able to blow up into shrapnel over enemy forces, and the echo of His Word, increasing the damage to the round as it hits its target. Think of a dum-dum round that we have in our modern day. On the battlefield, they are fearless followers, braving enemy fire and infernal terrors to deliver their ammunition to the forces of the faithful and to guide their communicant charges. These are the monks that are in charge of the communicate anti-tank hunters while on the battlefield, and provide the ammunition to their anti-material rifles. Fully committed to their task of bringing wrath of the Lord upon the heretics, they are loyal to their patron Saint Barbara, who is stated to bring those that die upon the battlefield to an everlasting glory. The monks have numerous psalms and hymns that they chant as they face the foe to provide morale to others. One of the most well-known is, "Blessed be the rounds that carry the weight of our faith. May the barrel be a chalice, the bullet a sermon, and the firing pin a divine spark, as we concentrate each round to the instrument of the Lord's judgment. Amen." These ammo monks provide an extremely vital role on the battlefield, not only guiding their communicant charges, but being essentially ammunition bearers to all fighting under the cross, and play probably the second most vital role to the entirety of the Mendelist Order's operations. And with that, we pretty much come to the end of what we actually know about the Mendelist Order. We take a look at their origins, or at least supposed origins, their creation of the Paladins, Communicants, Metacrists, and some of the ammunition they provide to the faithful. This is probably one of the most interesting organizations of the Church. They're probably one of, if not the most needed organization, with their DNA alterations and chemical tinctures probably being the only reason the Church has been able to keep up the fight for the past 800 years. Or at least the main reason why. And plus, they're just very interesting. You get serious AdMech vibes when looking at the Mendelist Order. I mean, take a look at the monks themselves. They definitely look like tech priests. And there's just that mystery of, we don't know exactly how all of this works. Keep in mind, they're the ones translating for the Metacrists. So who knows exactly what they truly want. So, thank you all for sticking to the end of this, and I hope you all enjoyed. And if you did, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good old YouTube stuff. And I hope you guys have a great day. And if you excuse me, I gotta get back to the archives. Have a great one.